Hey, what's going on, Read My Lips people? So I was actually working on another story which will be uploaded in a day or two, and as I'm working on this video, The Hill uploads an Andrew Yang exclusive interview. It's a two-parter, and right now only part one is out. But I watched this interview. I watched it 2 or 3 times. And it was incredibly interesting. And what I'm going to do right now here for you is A, reaction, and B, give my analysis on it, because really it was a very interesting interview. So I'm going to take the most important parts of the interview and the ones that stuck out to me, and we're going to talk about them here. So let's get right into it.
Our national polling continues to rise, and after the last debate, we had over 500,000 people sign up for the Freedom Dividend, and they were all over the country.
500,000 people.
Yep.
I mean, this is what was kind of interesting to me, is that, you know, the debate, a lot of the pundits said, oh, it was like, you know, it was like a game show. They didn't take it seriously. Mayor Pete sort of laughed after you did your introduction. The New York Times gave you a very low rating. But then what has the public response been?
The public response has been tremendous. I mean, if you look at the web traffic on our site, again, 500,000 signups, and we got over 1 million in donations, most of it from new donors in the 72 hours after the debate.
Oh, wow.
So this, the American people are speaking in the most important way they can, which is with their, right now, with their donations. And
So, okay, so this goes back to everything I was saying. All right. So if you haven't already, click the link above. I did a segment on Andrew Yang's Freedom Dividend contest. All right. And one of the things I spoke about was how much traffic his website is getting. And I said there was a caveat, partly because of this contest he's holding. But look at it. Look at it. 500,000 people since the debate. Debate was only a couple days ago. 500,000 people have signed up. They've gone to his website and signed up. So you cannot tell me that the American people couldn't use an extra $1,000, right? So this whole bullshit argument you hear so much of, like, oh, you just want to give stuff away and tie yourself up, tie your shoestrings by your bootstraps, and all this other bullshit they try to give you. And I just believe that when you work hard and you earn it, that you just appreciate it more. You just blah blah blah. People are struggling. Half of America makes $30,000 or less. 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Okay? People are speaking up. They're showing you that they like this UBI option that Andrew Yang is presenting. Okay? And it's different. So half a million people went and signed up. He made over $1 million worth of campaign donations since the debate. So new people, $1 million, right? So you cannot tell me what he's saying doesn't resonate with the people. So when corporate Dems or when right-wingers try to smear and make up BS, you're in the minority, bro. Like, you're in the minority. Nobody agrees with what the fuck you're talking about. That's amazing. That drove so much traffic. And I said in the video, I said in actually this video above, click that in the card above, I said Andrew Yang would be the most Googled candidate, and he'd be the most talked about candidate, and he'd be the most researched candidate post-debate. And I was correct. People are really fucking with Yang, and I think that's amazing. You can't tell me people aren't interested in the UBI. Look how many people went and signed up. All right, let's continue.
calling you John Yang, right? Leaving your name
Good
off
old
of
John Yang.
That was amazing. I mean, and it wasn't just on the graphic. The anchor said the same thing, right? I mean, you're a top contender. You're one of the few that's making all the debate stages, and yet they still don't seem to take your campaign seriously. What do you attribute that to, and do you see that shifting at all right now?
We definitely see it shifting. The performance of our campaign is now indisputable. And so mainstream press, I think they're catching on, just like, frankly, our polling results continue to improve. And I will say that I've been somewhat mystified by some of the press treatment over the last number of days, but I think it's set to improve dramatically.
So yeah, I think it's no secret that Andrew Yang was looked at and is an outsider. And since the jump, they've been paying little to no attention to Andrew Yang. Almost what happened to Bernie in 2016. John Yang getting his name wrong. The media sort of snuffs Andrew Yang. They don't take him seriously. I don't even think it's a point as to they don't like him. It's not that. I don't think it's a fact that they don't like him. I think it's they just don't take him serious. They're like, yeah, okay, get out of here. Even though he was polling better than some of the candidates they were presenting as top tier. Again, if you remember, and I think I can't remember if it was CNN or MSNBC. If you know off the top of your head, leave it in the comments. I'd appreciate it. There was a poll, and they put who they thought the top 6 were, and even though Yang at the time was 3%, they put Beto O'Rourke over Andrew Yang, and O'Rourke was 1%. They literally erased him from the figure. So yeah, they've been giving him the shaft the whole time, and he's literally been breaking barriers and climbing up the polls. Now, mind you, I am a Bernie Sanders supporter, but you have to acknowledge the momentum Andrew Yang is presenting. Let's continue.
Make it happen.
Yeah. How is it possible? How do you see, say we have a Yang administration, how do you accomplish your goals if Mitch McConnell's still in control of the Senate, if the filibuster is still in place, if you have a Supreme Court that's very hard right-leaning? How do you accomplish what you want to?
Well, first, I am one of only 2 candidates in the Democratic field that 10% or more of Donald Trump voters said they would support. So if I am the Democratic nominee,
who was the other one?
We will win. You probably know, Crystal. Take a guess.
Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders. So it's me and Bernie as the only 2 candidates that 10% or more of Trump voters say they would support. And what's the #1 criteria for Democratic primary voters for the nominee?
What is?
Okay, now we're getting deep here. All right, we're getting deep here. Listen to what he just said. And this is what people have been saying about Bernie Sanders for a long time, that the media wants to ignore, that other candidates that want to ignore, that other people that are for other candidates want to ignore. Bernie Sanders will win 10% of Donald Trump voters, and that is huge. I know 10% may seem like a small number, but in the long run, that's a large number of people. And Andrew Yang does the same thing, and they're the only 2 candidates to do that. Now, I've been saying this on my channel. Bernie Sanders supporters and Andrew Yang supporters are not that different, right? And listen, I go on forums, I'm on Reddit, I'm on just different political platforms quite often. And even in my own comment section, I see it often. Sometimes we'll butt heads, and we really got to cut it out. And I'm not for kumbaya. I'm not fucking Pete Buttigieg. I'm not, hey, let's sing kumbaya. If you think my policy, if you think Bernie's policy is shit, say so. And if I think, one of Yang's policy is shit, say so. But we're not that different, okay? And I don't think Yang supporters, and vice versa, right? And I said this out of my own mouth. I don't think Yang supporters would have a horrible time under a Bernie Sanders presidency. I don't think you guys would be like, well, fuck, this sucks. I don't see you saying that. And on the flip side, and I said this before, I said, if Bernie Sanders won, I'd be ecstatic. If Tulsi Gabbard won, I'd be ecstatic. And if Andrew Yang won, I'd be ecstatic. I can't see myself being like, well, shit, this sucks, under an Andrew Yang presidency. I don't see that happening because we're not that far off. We agree on some things, like Medicare for all, right? And we disagree on some things. And we'll get into that a little later in this interview. But yeah, we're Bernie supporters, Yang supporters, the only two people to win 10% of Trump voters, to flip them to our side. Let's continue.
What is your message to Sanders supporters? Because I think you have a lot of folks who are backing you who maybe were Sanders supporters last time, or Bernie's their first and you're their second. Like, it seems like there's an overlap in the coalition there. What is your message to Sanders supporters for why they should get on board with the Yang Gang?
What I'd say to them is I get it, because I was a Sanders supporter in 2016. You know, I saw Bernie's message and I said, this is the right direction. I think I have a more modern approach and that I can reach some of the same goals in a more effective way. But I love Bernie supporters. I love Bernie. Bernie's a national hero that's helped move the country in the right direction.
Okay, this just solidifies what I was saying. Okay, even Yang was a Bernie bro. Okay, so I actually don't like using that term, Bernie bro. That was cast upon them, but it doesn't have a bad ring to it. So I'll let it rock. But even Andrew Yang was a Bernie supporter. And he's literally verbatim, Andrew Yang said Bernie Sanders is a national hero, right? He moved the goalpost. He changed the political atmosphere exponentially. Like, he's changed shit. So, again, I said we're not that different. Yang supporters and Bernie supporters are not that different. Andrew Yang classifies himself as a little more modern. I can see that. Again, a little later in this interview, I'm going to tell you one of the things I'm not 100% with Bernie on, but I am on board with Yang on. Okay? And I think Bernie supporters and Yang supporters together would be incredibly powerful. All right, if they worked together. And again, he like Crystal said, there's a lot of crossover support. Yang is my number 3, right? So definitely some crossover support, crossover voters, and let's continue.
And I asked him specifically about the idea of universal basic income, the freedom dividend in particular, and why he views a federal jobs guarantee as a superior way to deal with the threat of automation. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I think most people want to work. They want to be a productive member of society. I think it's a very deeply ingrained feeling that people have. They don't want to sit on the side. Yes, of course, getting a guaranteed income is better than having nothing and sleeping out on the street, that's for sure. But I think people want to be part of our humanity, to be truthful, and how we feel good about ourselves is when we are productive members of our society. We're contributing something. And I think people feel that very strongly. And I think there is more than enough work to be done in so many areas. And our job is to say, if you are able to work, we have a job for you. Because the truth is, we have so much work to do to rebuild this country in so many ways.
What's your response to that?
Oh my gosh. Where do I start? So there are a few issues. The big one is that Bernie's presenting it as if the American people all aspire to work for the federal government, and many of us do not. That's not the vision we have for ourselves in our careers and our lives. The second thing that he misses is that if you put this money into our hands, it creates hundreds of thousands of jobs right in our communities where we live and work, work that we'd be excited about doing. The third thing is that there are all these implementation problems in real life if you were to have a federal jobs guarantee. What are the jobs? Who manages the people? What if you don't like your job? What if you're not good at your job? the spirit of it is fantastic, but the implementation would have a whole set of problems. But the biggest issue I have with this idea of a federal jobs guarantee is it ignores the sort of work that my wife does every day, who's at home with our 2 boys, one of whom is autistic. It ignores the kind of work that caregivers do every day, someone like Kyle Christensen, who's at home with his ailing mom in Iowa. A federal jobs guarantee does nothing for parents, nurturers, and caregivers, and to me, that's some of the most important work that any of us are doing.
Yeah.
All right, and this is where I'm more on board with what Yang is saying versus Bernie, right? And that's one of the good thing about not all progressives, but true fundamental progressives is if your candidate says something that you disagree with, you're not sheep-like and tribalistic, and you pretend that what they're saying is great and you give no pushback. I don't necessarily agree with the federal jobs position Bernie is pushing. I get it, like Andrew Yang said, the spirit of it is in the right. Like, it's what he's saying isn't a bad thing. Like, what he's suggesting isn't a bad thing. It's not like, how could you say something stupid like that? No, it's not that. It's the UBI is an even better idea, right? It will assist people in creating their own businesses and furthering their own business ventures and desires. And one of the things Bernie said is, look, I think people should work. I think people want to work. That's misleading. And I'm going to tell you why that's misleading. Because the UBI works best for people that are working. Again, I said in another segment, $1,000 isn't really shit. There's not much you can do with $1,000. You just can't not work and live off of $1,000, right? That's not going to happen. But when you add that $1,000 to the already working class, right, it helps them out exponentially. It changes their life. If you were to throw $12,000 onto anybody's salary a year, it is life-changing. Their quality of living will change. Now, I get it. Bernie wants to available for everybody to have a job, and that's not a problem, right? But the UBI is just a better option in general. And listen, the $1,000 could help someone potentially until they can get on their feet and get the job that they want or the job that they desire. Or it's so many different scenarios. If a family's together and the husband loses his job or the wife loses her job, that $1,000 income will come in and he can find the job that he desires again in his field, instead of being like, okay, well, you know, I'm going to go flip some burgers real quick because I lost my job and I got to make sure my family support. No, get that $1,000, go back into the field that you want. There's a lot of flaws with that, with what Bernie said in that interview. And again, what he is proposing isn't a bad thing. I just think UBI has so much more potential. Let's continue.
But you know, the reality is, in America, we have had this obsession with work as life, right? Whether it should be this way or not, people really base their self-worth on the work that they do. They center their lives around it. Men in particular, when they lose their job, it's sort of this existential crisis.
Totally.
So how do you transition from that way of thinking, where we have sort of a religion of work in this country right now that's been in existence for, you know, quite a while at this point?
No, so what we have to do is we have to broaden our definition of what work is. I couldn't agree more with you that work is central to human existence. Now, it's also clearly the case that we've gone a bit overboard here in the U.S., where Keynes decades ago projected that we'd be down to a 15-hour work week now because we'd be so productive.
How's that working out?
Instead, he was actually right about our GDP and revenue growth, but he was wrong that unfortunately we're working harder than ever.
All right, so I'll end it on this. This is the pushback when I mention Andrew Yang's UBI and the freedom dividend, even from people really close to me. everyone assumes, oh, people will just stop working. Oh, you give people $1,000, they're not gonna work. What are you talking about? That is absurd, and you've almost been brainwashed. I guarantee if I were to tell you to quit your job and I'm just gonna give you $1,000 a month, you would not survive. So, and yes, in America, work has been ingrained into us. It is almost a religion, all right? And so is politics. People think treat politics like religion too. And all the freedom dividend it would do would be to help take some of that weight off of our shoulders. Nobody's gonna stop working, right? If there are people right now that aren't looking for jobs and they don't want to work, right? That's gonna happen no matter what. Okay, there are always going to be people. There are people that can't get jobs right now, right? And then there are people that don't want to work. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the proposed UBI doesn't go to people who are already on some sort of state assistance or getting Social Security or something along those lines. I'm pretty sure that's the case. So, if somebody's already getting, state assistance, they're not going to get the UBI. I believe if people are on Social Security or something along those lines, they're not going to get the UBI. And, another more pushback that I've gotten is, what about the people that are making tons of money as it is? And I get it. I get that. They're like, what about Jeff Bezos? Jeff Bezos is going to get another $1,000 randomly. Like I get what you're saying, and I don't know if there's a cap. If there's a cap on the UBI or what Andrew Yang is proposing for that $1,000 a month, if there's a cap, if you make so much that you won't get it, let me know in the comment section below. I don't remember him saying anything about it, and I don't remember reading anything about it, and I've been on his site a couple of times already. So let me know in the comment section if you know. But yeah, I'll end it with that. Go to HillTV and watch that full interview. It's about 9, almost 10 minutes long. It's part 1 of a 2-part interview, and yeah, that's BS. Like that work is ingrained in us, and you should earn your living. People are working more than they ever have, harder than they ever have, and they're barely able to survive. So don't give me that bullshit. All right. I just thought this was something interesting to do. I watched the interview, like I said, 2 or 3 times, and it really stuck out to me. And thanks to you guys, the few viewers that I have on my channel, you've really helped educate me on Andrew Yang along the way too, because there were some things I knew about Yang, but then there were some things that I was either misinformed about or I wasn't 100% sure about. And he went from like a number 5 as to who I dug to a number 3. So yeah, I'll put the link in the description. Watch that if you get an opportunity. And when part 2 comes out, I might do another segment, another breakdown like this. If you want me to, let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, that's that. Very interesting interview. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. If not, let me know in the comment section why. I'm always down to talk about it. Hopefully I'll be talking to you guys soon. Have a good one. Peace.